All right, so we can go ahead and get started. So good afternoon. My name is Wendy Galvan, and I am the California Secretary of State's Students Vote Project Coordinator, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Brandt, Students Vote Project Coordinator.
So we will be sharing exciting changes to this year's Ballot Bowl competition, and we hope this event kicks off the election season and encourages college students to register and to vote this year. There's going to be an action-packed event, so we hope you have fun. We're gonna get started. All right, so who to better kick off our Ballot Bowl event today than our Chief Elections Officer, Dr. Shirley Weber. Take it away. Oh, Secretary, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Shirley Weber, California Secretary of State, and I'm always pleased and excited to be with our Student Vote Project and the exciting things that you do. I brag about you up and down the state, telling everybody how amazing our students are and the tremendous work you're doing. And when I visit your campuses to see what you're doing, as well as when we get to the end, where we're talking about who won the Ballot Bowl. So we make sure that everyone knows it. And now I'm having some board of supervisors and some county people and city people arguing amongst themselves about which one of their campuses is going to win the Ballot Bowl. And so Orange County is in a conflict between their campuses, which is great, which is absolutely amazing, because it says that your work and the things that you're saying are getting far beyond your campus into the city and generating some cross-town rivalries that are really, really good for a good cause. I'm just excited about it. I think when I went to the last time that we gave out our awards, last couple of times, the students were just on fire about what they had done and were just amazed at what they had accomplished in a short period of time. As most of you know, this is going to be a major election, so that your work will count immensely. Sometimes, we think when we do things, we don't see the immediate result of it. We don't see what's happening right away. And we just know that we registered people and it went into a big hole and we don't know what happens. But the November election is going to be a big election. It's going to have a lot of exciting things about it. And as a result, what you do will matter. You will probably have sessions where you're actually viewing the elections and watching, and you have an opportunity to look at the debate this evening if you choose to, and generate interest and engagement from so many different areas. So I just want to make sure that you all know that we're counting on you to boost our registration and our participation of students at the university. The work that you do is really, really remarkable. And I know many of you will be kicking off your campuses in a couple of months, so you'll start again. And the election will be, before you know it, will be in November, in the midst of a major election. And for some of you, this will be your first time actually voting, your first time really participating in a national election. You'll get a chance to do a lot of things, not on your campus, but off your campus if you choose to. So I encourage you to get engaged, get involved, participate, call the other students to be involved, because this is an experience that happens, every other year. And so if you miss out on it, in terms of the major elections, state elections, then federal elections, you have to wait a while for it to happen again. It's kind of like the Olympics. If you're getting ready to be in the Olympics and somehow or another something happens to you, you got to wait for 4 more years. So we don't want to have you wait to be engaged in a major election again, but make sure that you're involved and a part of this time. I want to encourage every one of you to make a plan as to what you're going to do. One of the things you'll discover if you listen to those who've won the Ballot Bowl in the past or who've competed really well, they developed a plan. It wasn't just like, well, what are we going to do? And you just kind of go from willy-nilly to get there. They had a plan. They had a plan that was scheduled. They organized themselves and they executed their plan. And so that was important, that you make a plan and then you execute that plan and make sure that there are signs along the way to let you know when you're on task and when you're accomplishing what you want to do. Thus far, we've already registered over 3,000 students, 3,652 college students thus far have registered to vote. And that's just this year alone. So and that's really before people get into this whole new season. So we anticipate a great turnout, a great number of folks registered to vote, and your participation and leadership will be critical to that. So once again, thank you so very much for what you're doing. I want to thank Kevin and Wendy and all the young folks I see here who are helping out today. I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank those of you who've gotten on the call this morning for your quarterly call, and know that we appreciate everything you do. This is an exciting time for us. And as I say, every time I go up and down the state, I'm bragging about what you do and how you do it and what's happening. And everyone knows about our student project. Many of our legislators do now know that their campuses are involved. And there's a sense of competition among all of them to make sure their campus is the best. So once again, thank you so very much for this meeting. Thank you guys for calling it together. Thank your director, Janelle Jackson, and Denise, who are on this call as well. And I look forward to the rest of the activities that are occurring and visiting your campuses and seeing who actually wins the Ballot Bowl this coming fall. Take care and have a good meeting.
Hey, thank you so much, Secretary. We are definitely fortunate to have an incredible leader with a passion for education, but also for civic engagement, be our California Secretary of State. So if you are joining us live today, we have an incredible agenda for you all to learn more about this year's Ballot Bowl. So let's go ahead and get started with our agenda. We will begin the presentation with a quick overview of the California Students Vote Project, and then we will give an overview of the previous Ballot Bowl and the updated Ballot Bowl competition. We will also discuss why it was important to update the Ballot Bowl and what that means for this year's competition. And then after the logistics, we will have an amazing halftime show featuring college students from throughout the state. Then we will transition to our best practices segment to help campuses prepare for the Ballot Bowl. And this civic engagement segment will include a panel made up of amazing college students who represent a campus from each of the higher education systems. We have Annie Caruga from Ohlone College, Carson Fajardo from CSU San Bernardino, Leo Rodriguez from UC Berkeley, and Graciela Escamilla from Mount St. Mary's University. They will also be our contestants for our Ballot Bowl trivia, where they will compete against each other to see which system knows more about the Ballot Bowl. And before we wrap up, we will have a second opportunity for questions, and this event will be recorded and shared in a post-event email. So I briefly want to go over the Students Vote Project to provide you all with a quick refresher of the work we do. The California Students Vote Project aims to increase student voter registration and civic participation on college campuses. The SVP was established in 2016 through an agreement made by the California Secretary of State, each of the higher education systems, and other organizations. In 2018, we hosted the very first Ballot Bowl competition, which is now held only on election years. And as you all may be aware, this year's competition will run from August 12th through Election Day, November 5th. And in 2020, we began to implement the Student Civic and Voter Empowerment Act, which is a first of its kind law that took agreements from 2016 and made those pieces into state law. One legal requirement of the Student Civic Voter Empowerment Act, or SCIVA, outlines for community colleges and California state universities for their campuses to submit action plans to the California Secretary of State's office. And an action plan, for those who may be unaware, is a forward-thinking document that acts as a blueprint. As Secretary mentioned, those campuses that tend to do better in civic engagement tend to be those that have a plan, and that's where the action plan comes in. So it acts as a blueprint or a roadmap for campuses to use when thinking about or organizing civic engagement events. So one of our goals for us as the SVP team was to create a California standard for action plans. Since the Student Civic and Voter Empowerment Act did not give additional guidance for how to create a strong action plan or what it means, we published the Action Plan Guidelines resource designed to help campuses. So through the Action Plan Guidelines, we aim to help California community colleges and California state universities complete their action plan as required, and also encourage the University of California and independent colleges to do so as well. So we create easy to understand voting resources designed with college students in mind, just like the action plan guidelines that I mentioned. And we host and participate in events just like this one, aimed at expanding the knowledge of voting and civic engagement. And now I'll hand it over to Kevin, who will go over the previous structure of the Ballot Bowl competition.
All right, thank you, Wendy. So before we begin discussing the new changes to the Ballot Bowl competition, we wanted to provide a quick overview of how the competition has been run in previous years, and for those who may not be familiar with the competition at all. First, the Ballot Bowl is a 12-week statewide competition to promote college student voter registration. The 2022 Ballot Bowl had campuses compete in 3 categories: number of students registered to vote, percentage of students registered to vote, and most creative approach to registering students. The overall champion was decided by the campus who registered the most students to vote during the competition. And now I'll hand it back over to Wendy to discuss why we are updating the Ballot Bowl.
So we talked about the SVP and Kevin just talked about the previous Ballot Bowl competition structure. At this point in time, you may be wondering or thinking, why would there be a need to update the Ballot Bowl competition? And so the answer is simple. It's to make the competition more equitable. Last fall, we took the initiative to meet with 15 individual campuses across the state that we thought were a representative sample of the different civic engagement work being done across all four higher education systems. And we received feedback from campuses that said that there was no way that they could win overall champion because of their smaller student body size. The overall champion required a campus to register the most students to vote out of all 234 plus campuses. A smaller campus or a campus with a lot of international students would not have the same opportunity to win. So take, for example, a campus like UCLA and a campus like Occidental College, almost opposites in terms of size. We also think that this would be a creative way for campuses to create action plans that follow the guidelines that we released in the beginning of this year, and ultimately create that California standard for action plans across all colleges and universities in our state, one of which doesn't exist anywhere in the nation. And so essentially, it encourages campuses to submit an action plan if they want to compete in the Ballot Bowl, since SCIVA requires only that community colleges and state universities submit an action plan. This motivates the University of California and independent colleges to also submit an action plan if they want to win the Ballot Bowl. The previous structure of the Ballot Bowl focuses mainly on one metric, which is college student voter registration. And we're not fully moving away from college student voter registration, but this updated competition structure makes sure that college student voter registration is not the only factor in determining which campuses are recognized in the civic engagement competition. So we mentioned the need to make the Ballot Bowl more equitable. So now this portion will cover how we plan to make the competition more equitable. So the answer lies in the point system that we created. In order to win overall champion, the campus would have had to earn the highest number of points out of all participating campuses. So we take the campus performance from the number of students registered to vote, plus the percentage of students registered to vote, plus their assessment score on their civic and voter empowerment action plan, and that would make up the total points for that campus. This allows for the overall champion to be more well-rounded because they would have to do well in all three categories to be a strong contender. And with the point system, the overall champion is determined by the campus that has the highest total of points out of all participating campuses. As you can see, the maximum number of points that the overall champion can earn is 702 points. The 2024 Ballot Bowl competition elements. So this year's Ballot Bowl is a blend of the previous competition and the updated competition. It would mean that the campuses can still earn an award by being the best performer in each category, but now they get to, so we have the same categories: highest number of students registered to vote, highest percentage of students registered to vote, and the highest score earned on the civic and voter empowerment assessment score. And so there would be 4 winners from each system as previously done, and that would mean that there would be 12 winners across the categories. And the other part of the competition, it would be the overall champion, and that's where we see the new model introduced. And so this campus would still receive a visit from the secretary, and it really is the campus that is put front and center as the 2024 Ballot Bowl champion. And to win overall champion, you would need to have be the best in 3 out of the 3 categories, not just 1 out of the 3, which was how the previous version was played. And in total, there would be 13 winners recognized in the Ballot Bowl, and then 1 would be the overall champion or the Ballot Bowl champion. And now Kevin will walk us through the Ballot Bowl Outreach Toolkit.
All right. Yes, thank you for that, Wendy. So in just a moment, you will be having a first look at the updated 2024 California University and College Ballot Bowl Toolkit. This toolkit contains everything you need to know about the competition, including how to play, best practices, social media graphics, and sample messaging. We're not going to look at every aspect of the toolkit, However, there are a few areas that we wanted to highlight. If you have any questions while we're going over the toolkit, please drop them in the chat and we can answer them during our Q&A. All right, so we're going to be starting with our table of contents. This is where you can click on any of these sections and it'll take you to that location on the page. One of the first sections I wanted to cover is the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan rubric. As part of the new competition updates, we will be grading action plans using this rubric. And we created this rubric based on the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan template located inside the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan guidelines, which we will drop in the chat. Each section of the rubric is worth up to 26 points, and to score exceptional in each area, your action plan should follow the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan template and just go above and beyond expectations. Towards the bottom of the rubric, your action plan can earn 26 points for just turning it in on time by October 1st of 2024. You can also earn 26 points for having your action plan be from fall 2024 all the way through summer 2026, capturing the next 2 academic years. And so the next section we wanted to cover after the rubric is our sample messaging. So we created messaging that your campus can use on social media with captions around voter registration, early voting, election day, and competitive messaging. To complement these captions, we created 12 sets of social media graphics to fit Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. We have a variety of different graphics on how to play the Ballot Bowl, a countdown to the competition, a checklist, and other graphics to motivate your campus and win this year's competition. And lastly, we created some printable material, which is a Win the Ballot Bowl graphic. This graphic contains a QR code to the college student voter registration link, a link to the Ballot Bowl website, along with information about the general election. We have this graphic available in a variety of different sizes, including a flyer, a poster, and a television graphic. So that's all that we have to share about the 2024 Ballot Bowl Outreach Toolkit. Keep an eye out for a post-event email that will contain all the important information and resources discussed today. And this toolkit will be available likely within the next week on our SVP resources page, which will be dropped in the chat. And then we can go to the next slide now. All right. Additionally, if you want your campus to perform well in this year's competition, it is important to ensure your campus is promoting the correct college student voter registration link on your campus website. We encourage you all to check out your campus's voter registration page and confirm that they are using one of the following 3 online tracking methods listed on this slide. Our team also created a button that your webmaster can embed on the campus website, guaranteeing students are directed to the correct registration link. You can find this button on our SOS website, which will be dropped in the chat. And as a reminder, we track college student voter registration every year and not just during the Ballot Bowl competition. If your campus needs to order paper voter registration cards from our office, you will fill out a voter registration card statement of distribution form. The directions to request paper voter registration cards can be found on our SVP website, which we will drop in the chat. In addition, if you'd like to track your campus's performance in college student voter registration, you can visit our online tracking tool, caballotbowl.sos.ca.gov, where during the competition, this website will be updated weekly to reflect your campus's online and paper voter registration numbers. And if you'd like to learn more about the Ballot Bowl competition, you can visit our Ballot Bowl website, which will be dropped in the chat. And we can go to the next slide. So we just before we move on, we want to see if there's any questions about the information covered thus far. As a reminder, if you do have any questions, please keep them nonpartisan. Questions or comments, please keep it nonpartisan. You could type them in the chat, or you could raise your hand if you have a question, and we can unmute you. We will have another opportunity for Q&A at the end as well, as a reminder. All right, doesn't look like we have any questions right now.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So transitioning over to some information about our 2024 presidential general election coming up this November. So thank you for listening as we talked about our program, the ballot bowl, and our outreach toolkit. Your dedication to building a more engaging democracy on a Thursday afternoon is greatly appreciated. And now we will transition to brief information and resources relating to the general election this fall. So we will be hosting a California College Civic and Voter Empowerment Summit in October. So we will share more information about the election then, but this is more of a brief overview. So in the next couple of weeks, we will be releasing the 2024 College Student Voter Resource Guide. And I will give a brief walkthrough of our toolkit, similar to what we saw with our Ballot Bowl toolkit. So very similar, we have a table of contents, and I want to just hone in on our important election dates here at the beginning of our toolkit. So you'd be able to right off the bat see what matters for the November 5th general election and to be prepared for that day. We also have civic key dates, which include National Voter Registration Day and the Ballot Bowl competition dates. And then going down, we have a frequently asked election questions section. And so I want to focus on the question, as a college student, what address can I use to register to vote? So we found that this population demographic tends to move around a lot, whether it be from their dorms, from different apartments in college, or from their home to college. And so this addresses those moving parts that we see with this age group. So we thought that this would be perfect to add to this iteration of our toolkit. So that way students have more guidance as to like what it means to update their registration and where they can vote or where they will receive their ballot. And we also have other questions like, what if I miss the voter registration deadline? Since we know, we can get busy. And then we also have a section that covers what will be on the ballot. And so students will have an idea what they expect to see on the ballot in the fall, and at least be prepared to know to expect that you'll see people running for presidency, vice presidency, and well, a senator and other Congress positions. And then in our outreach materials, we have sample messaging, voter education graphics, and a voter checklist flyer. So I want to kind of just recap. It's something that we did very similar for the primary election, but this is updated for the general election. You have important dates that adhere to those, and that can be ready to be copied and pasted. And then going down to our graphics, these tend to focus on important dates and deadlines and resources. So the voter information guide, and we have the last day to vote. The last day to register to vote online. So that would be October 21st. And then other early messaging. And then we have the website button that was mentioned earlier, so that a campus can put it on their website and students would click this button and it will take them to the link that actually captures college student voter registration data that ends in !T=S. And then we have our voter education posters. So we basically took some graphics, made them bigger, and these are 16 by 20 inches, and they can be posted around campus. And we're also very excited to share that we have television graphics. So we took these graphics and you can display them on shared common spaces on campus. So if there's a gym, an eating area, people can actually learn information about the election if they just look at the screen. And so this was a very cool addition to our toolkit this time around. So hopefully it is very useful, and we'll be releasing this in a couple of weeks, just going through some last minute editing phases, but I'm very excited to hand this over to prepare you all to be ready for this election coming up in the fall. And our last page is the flyer that focuses on being ready to vote. And so it's interactive, and these blank spaces are meant for it to be printed and filled out as to like whether you're registered, how you will vote, when and where you will vote, and then make sure that they can carry out their plan and take this to them when they go vote. So that pretty much wraps up our toolkit for the general election, and then this toolkit does help campuses meet the requirements outlined by the Student Civic and Voter Empowerment Act, but it also just helps students and very just the population navigate this election season. And as I mentioned, there will be a summit this fall that we will cover more about the general election. And now I will hand over to Kevin, who will be introducing our halftime show.
All right, everybody, it is now that time for the Ballot Bowl halftime show. Our team worked very hard to create this civic engagement montage featuring photos and videos from different California colleges and universities. Without further ado, let's jump right in. We hope you'll enjoy.
The Ballot Bowl plays such a large role in engaging students during the election season. I'm part of a program called MSMU Votes that works towards educating the student population about their rights as voters. Throughout the year, we have been planning exciting and engaging programs that get students motivated to learn about their rights as voters and teaches them how to make informed decisions.
Here at Stanislaus State, we engage the voters by setting up our ballot drop-off box in this beautiful roundabout at the front of campus, where it's not only visible to the library and the quad area, every student walks through.
State University, Sacramento, we encourage students to vote by hosting events that the Associated Students Incorporation, or as you know it, ASI, creates. One of the events that got students excited for the Ballot Bowl competition was a Vote Early Party, which encourages students to vote or drop off their ballot box located here at the Welcome Center. In 2018, Sac State made history as one of the California universities to create a vote center on campus.
The upcoming commencement ceremony for class of 2024 for San Diego Miramar College. All of this became a reality because we as a community have gone out and done our civic engagement and our duties. Throughout the state of California, this can be noticed how we as a higher education promote civic engagement and making sure that we do our duties as a citizen.
To increase civic engagement on my campus of American River College, we put it in the hands of the students in the associated body. They came up with a plan to give away free food to anyone who registered to vote. We got Chipotle burritos catered, and we got the most students registered to vote of any community college in California.
Super excited for the Ballot Bowl competition coming up, and we're hoping to take the title this year. And a few ways that we're looking at doing that is creating different events on our campus centered around civic engagement and hopefully bring in candidates to campus to have a debate. We also plan to create a website and have different ways for students to interact with the legislation and how it will impact them.
It really is imperative that our districts initiate and incorporate civic engagement to be an integral part of our campus life. Being registered to vote and actually making sure that we turn out to vote is critical for us to shape and transform our communities and make sure that our voices are heard.
We are at the top of campus. We're a medium-sized campus, so we don't have quite as many civic engagement resources as some of our other larger colleges. But we do have a very nice view of the San Francisco Bay on a sunny day. There's the bridge, hopefully sort of seen here. As students, we've done quite a bit to promote civic engagement. We recently started the Ohlone Politics Club, and we're working on starting the student newspaper.
Through my campus civic engagement efforts, I get to feel connected to my community, state, and nation. I've gotten to attend the talks of political thinkers, as well as candidates for public office, and hear their opinions on the issues. I really enjoy this because it makes me feel like I'm not just checking a box on a ballot, but that I'm really voting for real people.
All right, so that was our halftime show. We hope you all enjoyed. I want to express a big thank you to the students and faculty for submitting photos and recordings of the amazing work that y'all have done on your campuses. And we're very excited to have been able to showcase them today. And go back on full screen mode. And we're transitioning over to our next segment. So our next segment is our best practices segment on how to engage students on college campuses. So some of these faces may look familiar, and we have our panelists who are doing amazing civic engagement work on their college campuses. So I'll hand it over for them to introduce themselves, and we can start with Annie.
Hi, yeah, I'm Annie. I use they, them pronouns and go to Ohlone College as a community college student. And I'm also really proud to serve as the incoming Vice President of Legislative Affairs for our Student Senate for California Community Colleges.
And my name is Carson Fajardo. I go to Cal State San Bernardino, and I'm a fourth-year business administration major with a concentration in management. And I am the ASI student body president last year and incoming for this next year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Rodriguez. I am a alumni, just graduated from UC Berkeley, and outgoing president of IDEAS. It stands for Improving Dreams, Equity, Access, and Success at UC Berkeley. Excited to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Graciela Escamilla. I use she, her pronouns. I just graduated as well in May. I graduated with my degree in political science with minors in pre-law and Spanish studies. And I come from an independent California college and university. And I was very proud to serve as the previous Vice President of Student Government Association. And I also worked with our MSMU votes teams. And I'm very excited to be here.
All right, well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. And so we'll be asking our panelists 3 questions. And so we can just go in the order as listed in the slide. And so we can go ahead and go on to our first question. So question 1, how does your campus keep students civically engaged throughout the academic year? And if you can please provide examples. And then we'll start with Annie.
Sure. Yeah. So from the kind of community college perspective and from Ohlone College, right, it's an area where we're improving, right? We know that we've come a long way, but still have quite ways to go. And so some of the things that we've done, and specifically that student government has done, is we're working on recreating our newspaper. We've seen that other institutions have done really well on that, sometimes asking candidates or interviewing candidates for public office, about questions directly related to young people and to students. So we're working on that. We also just recently restarted the Politics Club, and through that have been sponsoring events to really encourage people to register to vote. We've had guest speakers, some of our local and state elected officials, and brought out food. And so some of the stuff that we're thinking about doing, we've seen other campuses do really well, is partnering with outside organizations like the League of Women Voters, and had these not necessarily challenges, but kind of fun activities wherein, like during the week before election day, if you showed your "Here's I Voted" sticker, you would get a boba, or you would get some sort of reward. And we've also seen that done really well on the kind of registration side, right? Here's a little incentive if you prove that you've registered to vote. And last thing, before I wrap up, I've been told that there are a lot of administrators on the call. So I would say, right, to you specifically, let students take the lead. I promise that students probably know how to reach out to students better than you do. But we know students. But right, like support us. There are really material things that you can do to support us, right? And like let students take the lead. Let us take credit for our work, right? But for our clubs, right, or our institutions, right, we need club advisors. So like create systems to help and support faculty who are our club advisors, right? Or sometimes these things take a little bit of money. So if you can work it into the institutional budget, right, that would be great. Or you have connections, right, to foundations that are supporting our institutions, right? If you can give us as students kind of those connections, right, or that help, right, getting access to those resources, right, it really helps student-led civic engagement opportunities, and it helps, right, it helps us do civic engagement really well.
All right, thank you, Annie. So great insight. So now we'll have Carson.
Yeah, thank you. Here at CSUSB, Cal State San Bernardino, we won Most Creative Approach in 2020 and the largest registered percentage of voters in 2021 during the registration rumble. A few ways that we've done and engaged students throughout the years for voter and civic engagement is through tabling on campus, making sure that we're getting out to the student body with QR codes, with even just flyers and being able to talk to students and telling them why it's important to stay civically engaged and to do their civic duty. We've also had a voter engagement website that we do and update every year. So we're currently working on it for this upcoming year, but being a resource and a place, a one-stop shop for all students to be able to find different ways to register to vote. And also, we have done events in the past that you have to register to vote to be able to get into. So we're currently looking at a few creative ways and fun ways to make these events interactive. And even if it's just a movie or if it's a show of some sort, having a QR code for students to register to vote on the spot to get in, or they can pre-register and then show the proof that they voted or they registered to vote in order to get into the event. Another thing that we do kind of on the side, and every single year we send students to Sacramento to lobby for different higher education issues across the board. So definitely having our lobby corps in our student body organization every year is a huge way to stay civically engaged. But thank you.
All right, thank you, Carson. So now we're moving on to, I think it was Leo.
Yeah, thank you. UC Berkeley has a rich history of civic engagement that has continued being dynamic all these years. Through civic engagement decals, which are student-led classes, we're able to explore crucial topics, blending education with action. In one of these classes last year, we were able to house a town hall where two candidates were able to come and share their perspectives and their platforms to the class. And it was our job to take notes and to read about the topics further after class. So that was very exciting and a creative way to reach students. We also have calls to action to mobilize our community towards meaningful causes, transforming awareness into tangible change. This is primarily done through the External Affairs Vice President's Office that connects with both community organizations and student registered organizations to promote these events. These can be things like in the past, the Cal Grant reform, and several causes that impact students. We also do several advocacy trips and lobby conferences that provide firsthand experience in shaping policy and at local and national levels. I was able to go to DC this last spring to do a lobby trip with the External Affairs Vice President's Office we were able to share with several offices the needs that students are facing, but critically able to elevate the issues with the Better FAFSA rollout. So that was very crucial for us. And we're also able to expand this rich tradition of civic engagement, and not just rely on its historical factor, but live it in the present. And so I think it's very exciting that we have this ability for students to come together on campus and do this exploration, not only in class, but also within their clubs and registered student organizations. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Leo. Thank you for sharing your trip to DC. Great information. And now I hand it over to Graciela.
Yeah, so at Mount St. Mary's, we're in a very unique position that we're both a private institution and we're a women's college. So a lot of the forms of civic engagement that we have on campus is very much through a lens of empowerment of our student population. So on campus, we have our Women's Leadership and Student Engagement Office that works directly with organizations and clubs. And one of the organizations is MSMU Votes, which is comprised of both student, faculty, and staff, and having kind of that space and cohesion where people all around campus can come together for this single cause is really important, just to have everyone on the same page when it comes to student engagement and just civic engagement in general. Even outside of like campus, people are still able to advocate for their communities. And Mount St. Mary's is a Hispanic serving institution. So a lot of our student population sometimes have those barriers, such as language barriers within their communities, but programs such as MSMU Votes help students to be able to have those conversations with their communities, even in the languages that serve them best. And another way that MSMU specifically is really supporting student engagement is through our National Voter Registration Day. And with National Voter Registration Day leading up to it, we have events that take place online and in person to help kind of increase student engagement, because we understand that sometimes an event will be at a time or a day where students have class or they're not on campus, but they can see that participation online with having social media polls or Q&As online through social media, and it highlights the importance of student engagement and civic engagement in general. And as other panelists have shared, like MSMU also does trips where students are able to advocate for themselves. One of the trips that I did with a fellow MSMU student was going to Sacramento and speaking about how it is important to increase the Cal Grant for colleges that are independent in the independent education sector, because these are issues that are important to us, and getting to go out and speak with these individuals really does showcase how civic engagement can take various forms, and it's important that we all can contribute to it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, since you all mentioned some type of Sacramento trips up here, definitely pay us a visit. Me and Kevin are in the SOS office, so definitely, stop by and say hi if you ever, are in town. So, Kevin, do you want to go for the next question?
I can take it from here. All right, everybody, we're moving on to our next question. So our second question is, in your experience, what form or forms of communication have been the most effective at reaching college students at your campus? Some examples would be maybe social media, flyers, or just word of mouth. And we'll start with Annie.
Yeah, right. This also is an area where it's maybe a little bit harder for some of the community colleges, right? Because most of us don't have dorms, many are students or commuter students, right? So there's slightly less kind of connection to campus as there maybe is at our UCs and many of our CSUs, right? And kind of the knee-jerk response oftentimes is social media. Young people are on social media. Students are on social media. Social media is how we communicate, which isn't wrong, right? It is undoubtedly a helpful form of communication, right? But I would urge us and kind of push us to look a little bit further, right? Really go to where people are at, right? So that means a lot of different things, right? That means, right, visiting and engaging with clubs, right? Students are in clubs, students are interested in being connected to campus, right? If they're in a club, right? So lean on clubs, right? Lean on at the community college level, right? We have ICCs, the interclub councils, right, that's been one thing. Another thing has been working with professors directly, right, because oftentimes we have smaller class sizes at the community colleges, and so oftentimes professors are a little bit more willing to, right, let you, right, you come to present to class, especially if you're with student government, right, or post something as a Canvas announcement or in the class Canvas about registering to vote. Right. And another thing, kind of building upon that, has been at many of our institutions, we've been able to work with professors such that we'll hold events at a convenient time, right, with a draw, with food, with a local elected official, and to kind of really help fill the room and get people initially in the door. Make it work with professors again to make it such that students will get extra credit if they go to the event. And so, right, well, that is kind of an incentive to get people in the door. Oftentimes we found, right, that students come and they're like, oh, I came for the extra credit, but like, actually, this is really important. This is really interesting. I should be involved in this. And so those are some of the kind of ways, some unique to the community college system, some perhaps a little bit more broadly applicable, that have really worked to communicate to students how important civic engagement is.
All right, Annie, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. And now we hear from Carson.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I think Annie put it really, really well. Social media is huge, right? And it's an easy way to get out quick to the word of mouth of students and the whole thing, and really campus in its entirety. Here at Cal State San Bernardino, we're a bit of a commuter campus as well. So yes, social media is great, but if it's not really in their face or in their circles, it kind of just gets lost through all the other noise, all the other social media posts, throughout the week, throughout the day. So what we try to do and what I recommend is a combination of both. Obviously, keep the social media posts coming through, but that word of mouth piece and that being out in student circles, in clubs and organizations, out in their college, right, in their region where they're taking their classes, whether it's out in front of a professor and in a classroom, or if it's out in a common space where all students congregate. I think it's really, really important to push ourselves out in person, being able to hand a flyer directly to a student or being able to talk directly to a student about why it's important to stay engaged civically.
All right, awesome, Carson. Thank you so much. Love everything that I'm hearing so far. And now we'll hear from Leo.
Yeah, thank you. In my experience, the campus network at UC Berkeley stands out as the most effective communication tool for reaching students. Usually the way it works is a hosting organization or club posts a digital flyer or creates a digital flyer that is then shared throughout the campus community. So this network seamlessly connects a wide array of clubs and organizations that share common values and commitments, ensuring that information spreads swiftly and comprehensively across campus. For example, when advocating for initiatives like the Opportunity for All campaign, which focused on supporting undocumented students, our campus leveraged the campus network to disseminate calls to action and relevant information to groups and community organizations specifically impacted. And so, for example, the Latin community at UC Berkeley has a conversation chain where student organizations send out messages that they want to be blasted on Instagram and throughout their social medias. We also ask that our community organizations send out key events through their email lists and their email listservs. But we found that, again, like some of my fellow peers have said, that these digital tools and these digital posters only work when they're referencing in-person events. And so when there is a teach-in about how to organize, that gets more traction when there's this online buzz about an in-person event. but we found it is harder to create that online buzz for an online event. And so that's another step we've taken is combining that online and in person as well. And so I think by harnessing these shared commitments and this type of network, we're able to invite a lot of students to these events that allow them to engage in different ways to civically engage.
Awesome, Leo. Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Graciela.
Yeah, so just as a callback to the whole conversation of social media engagement, while it should not be the only source of getting students involved, specifically at Mount St. Mary's, we have seen it really does help just to reach a wider population. We have a really big commuter and transfer student population, so similar to what Annie had mentioned with the struggle that community colleges sometimes face is that students aren't very physically connected to the campus. Sometimes we see that same issue with the independent and private education system. So social media does help in getting that message out to a bigger population. However, we have also seen really important advances with collaboration with clubs and orgs. We really reach out with MSMU votes and with the Women's Leadership and Student Engagement Office that when there's collaboration with student leaders on campus, such as club presidents, clubs vice presidents, and our Student Government Association, when they're all coming together and sharing this message with members of their club, we see that engagement kind of rise in regards to on-campus engagement. And then, as I previously mentioned, with our National Voter Registration Day, students can meet up at our student lounge, which is a place that a lot of students come and relax, take their lunch, hang out with friends, study, and they come to our lounge and they can pick up flyers about how to register to vote. And these flyers are typically in both English and Spanish, so they can take home to their families. And they can also speak with student leaders and leaders from MSMU Votes who provide guidance with voting, and they can chat with their fellow student body over a complimentary snack or a little beverage. And that's what helps keep students engaged, having sometimes that in-person conversation. But it's a combination of both those in-person interactions and those online interactions that really keep students motivated and excited about voting.
Awesome, Graciela. Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope everybody's able to take something from these very powerful, unique perspectives from the students. And we'll move on to our last question for this segment. Last question is, what inspired you to actively participate in civic engagement, and why do you think it is crucial for individuals of your generation to be involved? Starting with Annie.
Sure. Right. Yeah. First, I'll say, right, we think of college students as young, right? And while that often is the case kind of in aggregate, especially for the community college system, right, we have a lot of adult learners, we have a lot of student parents, we have a lot of, right, people returning to their education. And so, right, not only is it kind of a generational question of, right, why is it important for young people to be involved? Why is it important for your generation to be involved? Right. But there is this kind of whole cross-generational population at the community college system. Right. And it's really, really important, right, that we vote, right, that our voice is heard if we're allowed to. Right. And kind of what inspires me is I've realized, especially at the local level, right, you can get a lot done. Just to talk about kind of two examples in the Bay Area, right, close to home for me. Right. There was a state assembly seat decided by all of 6 votes. Right. There was a city council seat in the city of Richmond that was literally tied. Had one more person voted, right, the voters, as opposed to right, random lottery, would have chosen who was that city council member. And so what we often think of politics, right, is this game on the national level. I'm sure many of us will see it tonight on the debate, right, Trump versus Biden. And that's not entirely wrong, right? That definitely does occur, right? Politics is also, right, questions very local to our communities, right, where because these races are going 2, 3, 4,000 votes each vote comparatively, right, has a lot more weight than in kind of national questions and national elections. Right. And the last thing I'll say is I know that this is Ballot Bowl. I know that this is about voting, but civic engagement doesn't stop at voting. Right. And so that means two things. Right. One, it means if you can vote, right? If you are able to vote, if you are a citizen over 18 years old, right, you can do more if you have the time and the capacity to, right? You can go join an organization like the League of Women Voters. You can go volunteer for a candidate, right, that you believe in. You can show up at a city council meeting, right? But it also means that if you can't vote, right, if you're not a citizen, if you are not yet 18, if you for some reason, right, cannot vote, cannot register to vote, right, you're not excluded from this process either, right? There are so many things related to civic engagement that you can do, right? And so many of other people's votes that you can convince, right? By going to volunteer for a candidate that you believe in, for example. Right, and that's important too, right? To know that you're not excluded, right? I started my civic engagement journey before I was 18, and right before I could cast that vote myself, right? I was able to talk to and convince so many other people to vote how I would have. And so that's also a message that through all of this we need to uplift. We need to remember that civic engagement isn't voting alone.
Right on, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing. And now we'll hear from Carson.
Yeah, thank you again, Kevin. I think for me, and I think everybody else in here too, it's that call to action to get involved and have your voice heard, right? I think each and every single one of us have had that moment where we're like, hey, I want to have a voice in who's representing me on a statewide scale, on a national wide scale, even in our counties. So I think even as students, it's important as that youth to voice our vote in order to make sure that we are being heard. Another thing too, being in San Bernardino and Riverside counties and the populations that we serve at Cal State San Bernardino, it's very, very important for our students being in these underprivileged communities to be able to voice that vote and being able to be heard on a nationwide and statewide scale as well. So I think it's crucially important for our underprivileged communities to really have a big play in this whole election. So thank you again.
All right, thank you so much, Carson. And now we'll hear from Leo.
Yeah, civic engagement is very important to me for many reasons, but particularly as a dreamer. I, like many of my fellow peers, face challenges that I hope our leaders can help alleviate. However, I cannot ask for their support through the elective process. And so what has been so enriching for myself is to engage in civics so that we can raise awareness about the issues we face and help shape the way we help alleviate those issues. And so I think for civic engagement to look more than just voting, but also involving yourself in the local process through attending public comments, public meetings, going to town halls, going to, if able to, call into legislative processes and councils and committees, and just make your voice heard where able to. That's the journey I've had to travel without being able to vote, but wanting and earning for my voice to be heard. And so it's been a very close act I've held to myself, the act of being civically engaged for that reason of wanting my voice to be heard, and doing so through all these ways. And so that has meant being creative, but it also has meant finding community members that share values, but also allies that have been inspired to vote and to engage themselves in our legislative process for those reasons.
All right, on. Thank you so much, Leo. And last but not least, we're going to hear from Graciela.
Yeah, so something that just always keeps me inspired for whatever I do, honestly, is just like my communities. My communities are my driving force for everything that I do. I'm first generation. My parents were Mexican immigrants, and I'm a woman of color. I'm LGBTQIA identifying, and I acknowledge that I come from a privileged position, however, that I'm able to vote and that I can use my power of voting to be able to represent my communities and their issues. And when it comes to specifically individuals of our generation, it can be very easy that because of the state of the world, it can be very easy for people to become pessimistic. But I believe that especially when things are looking bleak, that's when we should continue to advocate for the issues that we're passionate about. And civic engagement can ensure that your issues are being addressed. And as many shared, civic engagement does not stop at voting, and it does not have to be defined by someone's voting power. And that civic engagement can look very different for very different reasons because of individuals' perspectives. And we can always go out and speak with members of our community to get them involved in civic engagement and get others to know about the issues that they're passionate about, because oftentimes people are they're so caught up in their own world that they don't acknowledge that there's these other things happening outside of their sphere that could indirectly impact them or people that they know. So when it comes to civic engagement, just be very true to yourself and true to your ideals, and that will be your driving force.
Thank you, Graciela, for that powerful statement. And that brings us to the end of this best practices segment. I want to thank again our panelists. And now we will transition and have some fun and test your ballot bowl knowledge in our next segment. All right, everybody, welcome to Ballot Bowl Trivia. In just a moment, we're going to test our contestants' knowledge of the Ballot Bowl and the new updates to the competition. This trivia is also a great way to test your own knowledge of the Ballot Bowl updates that were covered today. And so before we get started, we just need to go over some rules. Contestants will participate in trivia and answer questions related to the Ballot Bowl competition. Each contestant will have 6 seconds to answer each question and may use the Ballot Bowl toolkit for reference. Questions will range in difficulty. Our contestants for today are those who just shared some amazing best practices with us just moments ago. Introducing first and representing the California Community College system is Annie Karuga. Our next contestant, representing the California State University system, is Carson Fajardo.
Our third contestant is Graciela Escamilla, who will be representing the independent colleges system. And last but not least, we have Leo Rodriguez, who will be representing the University of California system.
Right on. So we're just going to be going by alphabetical order. So we'll just go to our question board in just a second here. And then the first contestant to choose a question will be Annie. Annie, you can go ahead and select a question for the 4 categories here. We have how to play, how to win part 1, how to win part 2, and then Ballot Bowl history.
All right, got it. And to clarify, once you show me the question,
you'll
have 6 seconds to answer, or
yeah, you'll have 6 seconds to answer.
All right, amaze. We'll do how to play for 200.
Right on. All right, how to play for 200. Where can campuses find weekly updates on their student voter registration numbers during the Ballot Bowl competition? Your time starts now.
On the Secretary of State website.
And we'll go to our answer to see if Annie is correct. The answer is the ca.ballotbowl.sos.ca.gov website. So it's not. Yeah, that is the correct answer. So unfortunately, we cannot award you the 200 points for this question.
Secretary of State's in the link.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I think we need a little bit more specific. That's the Ballot Bowl website, or the ca.ballotbowl.sos.ca.gov website. But we'll go back to our question board, and our next contestant to choose a question will be Carson.
All right. I'll do how to win for 300. Part one.
Do you want part 1 or part 2?
Part one. We'll try it out.
For 300.
300, okay.
All right, Carson. What is the maximum number of points a campus can earn for each category in the Ballot Bowl competition? Your time starts now.
234 points.
Pause. Well, yeah, we're gonna timer go. All right, we'll see if Carson is correct. And the correct answer is 234 points. So Carson will be awarded 300 points for this question. Great job. All right, next we have Graciela. Graciela, go ahead and choose a question.
I will choose how to play for 100.
Right on. All right, how to play for 100. Which online voter registration link tracks college student voter registration? Is it A, register-to-vote.ca.gov, or is it B, register-to-vote.ca.gov/?T=S? You have 6 seconds.
Pretty sure it's B.
All right, her answer is B. That is correct. That is our college student voter registration link, ending in $T=S, and that is the link that you're going to want to register students under, or at least one of them. And that is the link that we promote, and that'll track college student voter registration. So Graciela just earned that many points, and then now we're going to have Leo. Leo, go ahead and select the question.
Yeah, I'll do how to win for 200.
Part 1 or part 2?
Part 2.
All right, so for 200 points, how does a campus win overall champion? You have 6 seconds.
Yeah, campuses can do a combination of the voter registration, also their campus. So the student registered to vote percentage of student body registered to vote, and then their civic and voter empowerment action plan. So those 3 things can be used for a campus to win.
All right, so let's see what the correct answer is. So you did begin answering the question. It's pretty lengthy answer. So I think it's fair to award Leo 200 points for coming up with the correct answer.
I agree.
Kevin, do you agree? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. As long as you guys start answering the question before the timer runs out, then we'll do our best to count that. So yeah, that was correct.
All right, so now we are headed to our second round.
Yes, and we're gonna go check our leaderboard. So right now we have Annie currently with 0, Carson with 300, Graciela with 100, and Leo with 200. So we still have 2 more rounds to go, and there's plenty of time to catch up. So we'll go back to our question board, and we will start again with Annie to choose a question once we go back. There we go.
Sure, I'll do how to win part 2 for 300.
All right, Annie, for 300 points, what is the minimum number of events a campus should include in their event requirements section of a civic and voter empowerment action plan? You have 6 seconds.
At least 6.
That was pretty close. So yeah, like in terms of time, and that is the correct answer. It is 3 for academic years, 6 or more events total.
Correct. So Annie, you have earned 300 points. So we're going back to our leaderboard.
All right. And then we're going to have Carson. You're up next. Let's select the question.
All right, I'll do how to play for 300.
All right. All right, Carson. If a campus wants to request paper voter registration cards from the California Secretary of State's office, what is the name of the form to fill out? Your time starts now.
It is the voter registration card statement of distribution form.
And we'll see if Carson is correct. That is correct. It is the voter registration card statement of distribution form. That form can be found on our SCP website, which we dropped in the chat earlier, if anybody needs to request voter registration cards. So Carson, you earned 300 points. All right, next we have Graciela.
I'll do how to win part 1 for 200.
All right. If a campus wants their CVEP to be considered for the Ballot Bowl, by what date must they submit it to the California Secretary of State's office? Your time starts now.
They have to submit it by October 1st, 2024 for this year, before midnight.
All right, let's see if Graciela is correct. That is correct, October 1st, 2024. And just as an added bonus, she said by midnight, which is even more correct. So Graciela is awarded 200 points. And then Leo, go ahead and select a question.
Yeah, I'll do Ballot Bowl history for 200.
All right, for 200 points, in what year was there a special election ballot bowl, and which campus won that competition? Your time starts now.
It was 2021 and it was CSU Chico.
Yes. Oh, actually, let's see if it's correct. I have a bias. Yes, that is correct. 2021 and California State University Chico won that year. So you've earned 200 points.
All right, and then we're gonna go check our leaderboard as that is the end of our second round. We have Annie with 300, Carson currently leading with 600, Graciela with 300, and Leo with 400. And we'll now be moving on to our third and final round. So good luck to you all. Starting with Annie. Annie, go ahead and select a question.
Oh, lovely. I'll do Ballot Bowl history for 300.
All right, for 300 points, according to the Ballot Bowl Toolkit, which higher education system has the most campuses eligible to participate in the Ballot Bowl? Your time starts now.
The CCC system.
All right, let's see if that is correct for 300. And yes, that's correct. The California Community Colleges have the most with 116 campuses, plus campuses. All right.
All right, so Annie earned 300 points. And now Carson, you can go ahead and select one of the 3 remaining questions.
I'll do Ballot Bowl history for 100.
For 100 points, in what year did the Ballot Bowl competition start? Your time starts now.
Oh, no.
Oh, time's up.
2018.
So that was after the timer.
I
So unfortunately, we cannot award you 100 points, but the answer was correct. 2018 was when it first started.
I'll take it. Thanks, guys.
Good effort, good effort. All right, Graciela, go ahead and select one of the 2 final questions.
I'll do how to win part 1 again for 100.
All right. How to win part 1, true or false? A campus can win more than one category in the Ballot Bowl competition. Your time starts now.
True?
All right, we will see if Graciela is correct. The correct answer is false. A campus can only win one category in the competition. So unfortunately, we cannot reward you with the 100 points. And then Leo, you have the last question for how to win part 2.
So for 100 points, name the 3 categories for the Ballot Bowl competition.
Yeah,
Your time starts now. Sorry.
Student registered to vote, percentage of student body registered to vote, and then the civic voter empowerment action.
Okay, so those are the 3 final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, that's correct. All right, yep, so for 100 points, that's correct. Those are 3 categories, and you begin answering. Actually, I think I pressed the timer before I finished asking the question, so I apologize. But yes, that's correct.
Yes, and then we'll go take a look at our leaderboards. I do know it's 1:15. So if you're able to stay on, we just have a couple more things. We're towards the end of the meeting, but if you have other commitments, we do understand. We thank you all for joining. But if you do the time to stay back, feel free, and we still love to have you here. So we'll go check the leaderboards. So currently, it looks like we actually have a tie, and we do have one bonus question for this tie. We do have Annie and Carson for the tie. So we do not have a winner decided at this moment yet, and we will go to our bonus question. So Annie and Carson, the way this is going to go is it's just going to be whoever raises their hand first, which, I mean, that's how we're going to be able to do this for this bonus question here. So once we read the question, we'll try to decide whose hand comes up first, and we're going to do our best.
Okay. Ready, and here's the question.
All right, go ahead. You want to read it, Wendy?
Yeah, so besides the college student voter registration link, register to vote.ca.gov *T =S, what are the 2 other online voter registration tools listed in the toolkit? All right, I saw Carson go first.
All right, TurboVote and castudentvote.org.
Okay, so let's see what the answer is. Yeah, that's in right order too. That's correct.
Yeah, that was
TurboVote
very
and
close.
CA Student Vote. But Annie was a close second. So that breaks the tie. So let's go back to our leaderboard.
All right, so we have Carson as our winner for today's Ballot Bowl trivia. Congratulations, Carson, from the California State University system, and we will see if this is a foreshadowing of a California State University campus winning the Ballot Bowl this year. Once again, we want to give a huge thanks to our panelists, who are also our contestants in trivia, for dedicating their time to be a part of our meeting today. And we hope you all enjoyed this segment, and we hope that it helped reinforce the new rules to the Ballot Bowl competition and be able to give your campus the best chance at becoming overall champion this Ballot Bowl. So thank you so much for everybody for joining today's meeting, and we hope to see you at our summit, which will be occurring later this year. If you have any questions, you can feel free to stay back, and we can go over any questions that you had about the presentation or anything else that we may have missed.